The overwhelming force. Admiral Helena Voss stood motionless on the bridge of the ESS Dauntless, Earth's flagship and the pride of humanity's interstellar fleet. The holographic display before her showed 20,000 warships, the combined might of Earth and its colonies, arranged in perfect formation around the Sol system's outer boundary. It should have been an awe-inspiring sight, the culmination of 2 centuries of human expansion into the stars. Instead, she felt only dread. "They're still coming, Admiral," Lieutenant Commander Rice reported, his voice steady despite the tension that permeated the bridge. "The Meridian fleet will enter sensor range in approximately 18 minutes. Voss nodded, her gray eyes fixed on the approaching red markers that represented the Meridian Collective, an alien civilization that had emerged from the depths of the Orion Arm 6 months ago. Intelligence suggested their fleet numbered in the hundreds of thousands, the largest armada ever encountered in human history. "Status of civilian evacuation?" she asked. 78% complete for Earth. The Mars colonies are at 93%. The outer settlements. Rice hesitated. "They're not going to make it, Admiral." Voss closed her eyes briefly. Billions of lives depended on her next decisions. Humanity had encountered alien species before, some peaceful, some hostile, but nothing like the Meridians. Their technology was centuries beyond Earth's capabilities, and their expansion was relentless. "Admiral," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the Meridian flagship." "Put it through," Voss ordered, straightening her uniform. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing the alien commander. The Meridian resembled a tall, slender humanoid with iridescent skin that shifted between shades of blue and green. Its 4 eyes, arranged in a diamond pattern, studied Voss with unnerving intensity. "I am Arkshan Sethval of the Meridian Collective," the alien spoke, its voice translated into eerily perfect English. "Your species has been assessed and found wanting. Surrender your systems now, and your people will be permitted to exist under our guidance. Resistance will result in your extinction." Voss maintained her composure. "This is Admiral Helena Voss of the Earth Space Force. The Sol system and its colonies are sovereign territory of humanity. We have no quarrel with the Meridian Collective, but we will defend our homes." "Your defiance is expected but irrelevant," Sethval replied. "You have deployed your entire fleet, impressive by the standards of young species, but merely an inconvenience to us. We have cataloged 87 civilizations more advanced than yours, all now part of the collective. Your integration is inevitable." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in silence. "They're accelerating," the tactical officer announced. "Estimate contact in 15 minutes. Voss turned to her chief science officer. "Dr. Chen, you mentioned a theory earlier. I need options, not just for victory, but for survival." Dr. Elias Chen, the quantum physicist who had been recruited to the ESS Dauntless only weeks earlier, stepped forward. His eyes were bloodshot from days without sleep, but there was an intensity in them that hadn't been there before. "Admiral, I've been analyzing the Meridian technology based on our long-range scans," Chen said, manipulating the holographic display to show the internal structure of a Meridian vessel. "Their ships utilize a form of dimensional folding we've only theorized about. They're essentially larger on the inside than they appear externally." "Like the TRDS," Lieutenant Rice muttered, earning a few nervous chuckles from the crew. Chen nodded. "Precisely. But more importantly, we've detected unusual quantum fluctuations within their fleet. I believe they're utilizing what we might call nested dimensions, or pocket universes, within their vessels to house additional ships and resources." Voss frowned. "You're saying they have ships inside their ships?" "More than that," Chen explained, his excitement growing. "They have entire fleets contained within microscopic dimensions linked to their primary vessels. It explains their numerical advantage and why our intelligence reports show their resource consumption doesn't match their fleet size." "That's fascinating, Doctor, but how does this help us?" Voss asked, keenly aware of the approaching deadline. Chen's expression shifted to one of determination. Because we can do the same thing, just differently. He manipulated the display again, showing a complex diagram. 3 years ago, I was part of a classified research team at Europa Station. We were studying quantum superposition and dimensional resonance. We developed a prototype that could theoretically create a recursive dimensional field, essentially nesting one layer of reality inside another. Voss's eyes widened, like Russian nesting dolls. Exactly, Chen confirmed. Project Matryoshka. It was shelved because we couldn't control the recursion process. But given our situation, I believe we have nothing to lose by implementing it. You want to create our own pocket dimensions to match their numbers? Voss asked. Chen shook his head. Not exactly. The meridians use stable pocket dimensions, controlled and predictable. What I'm proposing is far more chaotic and, frankly, desperate. We'd be creating a cascade of recursive dimensions, each containing duplicates of our fleet that would exist simultaneously in multiple layers of reality. Is that even possible? Rise asked. Theoretically, yes. Practically, Chen grimaced. I don't know, but the mathematics suggests that for a brief period, perhaps 60 minutes at most, we could effectively multiply our fleet's presence across multiple dimensional layers, all occupying the same physical space, giving us a numerical advantage, Voss concluded. Temporarily, yes. But there's a catch, Chen warned. The dimensional recursion would be unstable. When it collapses, and it will collapse, the energy release could be catastrophic. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. How catastrophic? Voss finally asked. Chen met her gaze. On a scale of 1 to 10, about a 15. We'd be tearing holes in the fabric of reality itself. Voss turned back to the tactical display. The Meridian fleet was now clearly visible, a vast swarm of ships stretching as far as their sensors could detect. Time to contact, she asked. 12 minutes, Admiral. Voss made her decision. Dr. Chen, implement Project Matryoshka. All ships prepare for dimensional recursion protocols. Transmit the necessary modifications to the entire fleet. As the crew rushed to comply, Voss stared at the approaching armada. 20,000 ships against hundreds of thousands. Impossible odds by any conventional measure. But humanity had always excelled at changing the rules when the game seemed unwinnable. Admiral, Chen called out, there's one more thing you should know. The dimensional recursion will create copies of our fleet, but they'll all be operating independently. We won't be able to control them directly. What will control them then? Voss asked. Chen's expression was grave. Physics, probability, chaos theory. Each dimensional layer will represent the slightly different quantum state, different choices, different tactics. Some versions of us will fail. Others might succeed in ways we can't imagine. So we're literally betting on alternate versions of ourselves, Voss said. We're betting on humanity, Admiral, Chen replied. In all its possible iterations. As the Meridian fleet drew closer, the crew of the ESS Dauntless worked feverishly to implement Chen's radical theory. Voss knew they were attempting something that defied conventional understanding of physics. It was exactly the kind of desperate, innovative solution that had defined human progress throughout history. Meridian fleet entering weapons range in 2 minutes, the tactical officer reported. Voss took a deep breath. All ships, maintain formation. Prepare to activate dimensional recursion on my mark. The massive alien fleet loomed before them, their advanced weaponry charging with energy signatures that outclassed anything in the human arsenal. The outcome seemed inevitable. Admiral, Chen called out, his voice tight with tension. The recursion field is ready, but I must warn you again. Once activated, we have no way to predict exactly what will happen. Voss nodded. Sometimes you have to leap without knowing where you'll land, Doctor. She opened a channel to the entire human fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Voss. What we attempt today has never been done before. We face an enemy that believes our extinction is inevitable. Let's show them why they're wrong. As the first barrage of Meridian weapons fire streaked toward the human fleet, Voss gave the order that would either save humanity or condemn it to an even more spectacular end. Activate Project Matryoshka. Now. The recursive defense. The universe fractured. There was no other way to describe what happened when Dr. Chen's dimensional recursion field activated across the human fleet. For a moment, reality itself seemed to stutter, like a video playback skipping frames. On the bridge of the ESS Dauntless, crew members experienced a disorienting sensation of being in multiple places simultaneously, seen through eyes that were both theirs and not quite theirs. Admiral Voss gripped her command console as waves of nausea swept through her. Through blurred vision, she watched the tactical display transform from a straightforward battle map into something impossible. Layer upon layer of holographic projections showing the same space, but with subtle variations. In each layer, the 20,000 ships of the human fleet existed simultaneously, occupying the same physical coordinates, but in different quantum states. Status report, she managed, her voice sounding strange to her own ears. Lieutenant Commander Rice blinked rapidly, trying to focus. The recursion field is active. Admiral, our sensors are detecting. He paused, staring at his console in disbelief. 160,000 human ships. No, 200,000. The number keeps increasing. Dr. Chen stumbled to the science station, his face pale but his eyes alight with wonder. It's working better than I anticipated. The dimensional recursion is creating a cascade effect. Each layer is spawning additional layers, each with its own copy of our fleet. On the main view screen, the impossible unfolded. Where 20,000 human warships had faced an overwhelming Meridian force, now a vast armada of identical Earth vessels materialized, appearing to phase in and out of existence as the dimensional layers fluctuated. The original human fleet remained at the core of this dimensional anomaly, but surrounding them were echoes. Quantum duplicates fighting the same battle across probability space. The Meridians are adjusting their formation. The tactical officer reported. They appear to be confused. A communication channel opened, revealing Archon Zethval's face. The usually composed alien commander now displayed visible signs of agitation, its iridescent skin pulsing with rapid color changes. "What have you done?" Zethval demanded. "This technology was not in our assessment of your capabilities." Voss straightened her uniform, fighting through the disorientation. "Consider your assessment outdated, Archon. Perhaps you should reevaluate whether humanity is as primitive as you believed." The Meridian's four eyes narrowed. "Impossible. You've created a dimensional recursion cascade. Such technology is forbidden even among the most advanced civilizations we've encountered." "The risks." "We're well aware of the risks," Voss interrupted. "But when faced with extinction, humans tend to get creative." The communication abruptly cut off as the battle began in earnest. The Meridian fleet, initially staggered by the sudden multiplication of their opponent, recovered quickly and engaged. Their advanced weapons tore through space, destroying dozens of human vessels with each salvo. But for each ship destroyed, multiple quantum duplicates continued fighting across different dimensional layers. "Fascinating," Dr. Chen murmured, studying the readings. "The recursion isn't just duplicating our ships, it's creating variations based on quantum probability. Some versions of our fleet are employing different tactics than we planned." Voss watched as one cluster of duplicated Earth ships executed a maneuver she hadn't ordered, a daring flanking action that caught a Meridian battle group by surprise. In another layer, a copy of the ESS Dauntless itself was sacrificed in a kamikaze run that destroyed a Meridian command ship. "We're winning and losing simultaneously," Rise observed, his voice filled with wonder. Schrödinger's battle. For 30 minutes, the chaos continued. The dimensional recursion created an ever-shifting battlefield where the laws of conventional warfare broke down. The Meridians, despite their technological superiority, struggled to adapt to fighting an enemy that existed in multiple quantum states at once. Their formations, designed for traditional space combat, became increasingly disorganized. Then warnings began flashing across the Dauntless's bridge. "Admiral," Chen called out, urgency in his voice. "The dimensional recursion is becoming unstable. The layers are beginning to collapse into each other." "How much time do we have?" Voss demanded. 15 minutes, maybe less," Chen replied. "When it fails, the dimensional rebound will be catastrophic. We need to deactivate the field before that happens." Voss nodded grimly. "Open a channel to the Meridian flagship." Archon Zethval appeared on screen again, now visibly disturbed. Behind him, Meridian crew members worked frantically at their stations. "Your dimensional manipulation is destabilizing, Admiral," Zethval stated. "Our sensors detect an imminent collapse that will create a cascade failure across all affected space. You must deactivate your technology immediately." "I'm aware of the situation, Archon," Voss replied calmly. "And I will order the deactivation of our recursion field on one condition: the immediate withdrawal of all Meridian forces from Earth-controlled space." Zethval's skin flashed with indignation. "You dare to make demands while threatening to destroy reality itself. This is madness." "It's negotiation," Voss corrected, "from a position of mutual assured destruction. According to our calculations, the dimensional collapse will affect your ships as much as ours. The difference is, my species has accepted its fate if we cannot reach an agreement. Has yours?" A tense silence followed as the alien commander conferred with others off-screen. The tactical display continued to show the deteriorating dimensional field, layers of reality bleeding into one another, creating visual distortions as space itself began to buckle. 10 minutes to critical failure," Chen warned. Finally, Zethval returned his attention to the screen. "The Meridian Collective agrees to withdraw from Sol system and all human-controlled territories. We request an immediate ceasefire and deactivation of your dimensional technology." Voss allowed herself a small smile. "Agreed. Transmitting deactivation protocols now." As Dr. Chen worked to shut down the recursion field, Voss maintained her composure. The dimensional layers began to collapse back into normal spacetime, the quantum duplicates of human ships fading from existence one by one. In some areas, the collapse was violent, creating localized spatial distortions that damaged nearby vessels from both fleets. "The Meridians are withdrawing as promised," Rise reported, unable to keep the astonishment from his voice. "All battle groups are disengaging and moving away from Sol at maximum speed." As the last echoes of the dimensional recursion faded, leaving only the original 20,000 human ships in normal space, Admiral Voss finally allowed herself to exhale. The gamble had paid off, though the cost had been high. Nearly a third of the human fleet had been destroyed or severely damaged during the battle. "Admiral," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving another transmission from the Meridian flagship, text only this time." Voss nodded. On screen, the message was brief. "We have severely underestimated humanity's potential and desperation. The collective will reassess. This is not over, but it is postponed. Expect contact in one standard cycle." "One of their cycles is approximately 5 Earth years," Chen noted. Voss nodded, considering the implications. "Then we have 5 years to prepare. Send a message to Earth Command. Project Matryoshka is to receive unlimited funding and resources. Dr. Chen, I believe you've just become the most important scientist in human history." Chen looked troubled. "Admiral, what we did today violated fundamental laws of physics. The dimensional recursion was unstable for a reason. If we continue developing this technology, we'll do it more carefully next time," Voss assured him. "But we can't ignore its potential. The Meridians will return, and they'll be ready for this trick. We need to be 10 steps ahead by then." As the human fleet regrouped and began the journey home, Admiral Voss stared out at the stars. Humanity had survived its first encounter with the Meridian Collective. not through superior numbers or technology, but through the uniquely human traits of desperation, innovation, and the willingness to risk everything on an untested theory. The Meridians had arrived with 20,000 warships against their hundreds of thousands, confident in their victory. They had learned what so many others throughout human history had discovered: never underestimate a species that thrives on beating impossible odds. In the quiet aftermath of battle, as repair crews worked to mend the damaged ships, Voss found Dr. Chen in the observation lounge, staring at the retreating lights of the Meridian fleet. "They'll be studying what we did for years," Chen said without turning, "trying to understand how we managed it." "And will they understand it, I mean?" Voss asked. Chen shook his head slowly. "I'm not sure I understand it myself. The mathematics suggest we didn't just create copies of our ships. We tapped into parallel realities where slightly different versions of us were making slightly different decisions. For a brief time, we unified those realities, like glimpsing all possible futures at once," Voss mused. "More like bringing them into the present," Chen corrected. "And that's what terrifies me. If we can perfect this technology, we'd be tampering with the fundamental structure of reality itself." Voss placed a hand on the scientist's shoulder. "Today, that's exactly what saved humanity. Tomorrow, well, tomorrow we'll face whatever comes next. We always do." As the ESS Dauntless led the battered but victorious human fleet back toward Earth, news of their impossible success was already spreading throughout the colonies. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged not just alive, but with a new understanding of what was possible. The universe, it seemed, was far stranger and more malleable than anyone had imagined. And in that strangeness, humanity had found its edge: the ability to change the rules when losing the game. The Meridians would return, of that there was no doubt. But when they did, they would face a humanity transformed by the knowledge that reality itself was negotiable. And that was a lesson worth 20,000 warships.